Okay, here we are back. It's Mr. B reporting to you live from the sick den. Let's get on to Notes 15. We're only going to look at the top half of Notes 15. This is a pretty straightforward section. You've already been doing this. Basically, how can units guide us to the answer? So we are doing math with units just as we do math with numbers. If you recall in physics, we don't use values, we use magnitudes. Magnitude is the number with, or the value with, the unit. So 100 means nothing in physics. 100 meters means something. 100 seconds means something. 100, for example, over here, meters per second times 10 seconds means something. 100 times 10 does not. All right, so how do we deal with this? Well, the first one's pretty straightforward. You notice here that we have meter per second times seconds. So seconds in the denominator, seconds in the numerator. If you want, you can put this over 1 to help you clarify. But this is just multiply across. The seconds cancel. And when you multiply meter per second by second, you are left with just meters. Okay. Next, thin this out. Meter per second per second. So there are a couple ways to go about this one. But if we write this out nicely, this is meter over second, and that one unit is over another unit, just the second. Now notice this is clearly different from option 1, choice question 1 over here, so you should not expect the answer to again be meter. In fact, it's not. One of the ways you could deal with this, we'll draw it up over here, is when you have a fraction within a fraction. You do that little game called keep, change, flip that you've done in math class. Basically, your numerator is what you keep. That remains meter per second. You change this division over here, this big fraction symbol, to a multiply. So we put that as a second. And then you have to flip. You flip the denominator. Now you look at the denominator as it is. Right now it is just s. You don't think of it as a denominator. You just look at it by itself, and it's just s. What is the flip of s? Well, that would be 1 over s. So here's your 1 over s. And so now when you multiply these two, hopefully you notice the seconds do not cancel. It's meters times 1 over seconds times seconds. That would be meter per second times second is second squared. Okay, next one, same kind of game. We need a little more space, so we'll do it over here. This is meter over meter per second, so let's change this division right here to a multiplication, and let's flip this meter per second into a second per meter. And if you do that, hopefully you see here what happens. Meter in the numerator, meter in the denominator, cancel. We are left with seconds. Fourth, kilogram times kilogram. Well, that's pretty straightforward. I'll just bring it up here because just like in math, x times x, you're left with x squared, not 2x. So beware in physics, there are times where you'll be multiplying symbols, and sometimes there's the urge to write 2 kg or 2q, but it's not. It's kilograms squared. All right, the very last one. Here we have meter per second. That's the numerator. And then we have change. So change this overall fraction into a multiply. And the denominator is just m. How do you flip m? You make it 1 over m. Of course, you see here that the meters cancel, and you are not left with s. You have to be very careful here. S is in the denominator, 1 is in the numerator. Those two maintain their positions. You are actually left with 1 over s. This can also be written as s raised to the minus 1. This, by the way, is a real physics unit. It's one that we rename and call the hertz. It's something we'll worry about much later in the year. Okay, so there's some math with units. And here's an application. This is not just to get your answer right, put the right number of units in your answer, but we also can apply. So if you check out this question down here about the donkey, you'll see that there are times, and by the way, this is a very useful SAT 2 skill. To take the physics SAT 2, you need to be fast, lightning fast. By looking at the units, you don't necessarily have to understand the question. The units alone in the answer choices can tell you what to do with the physical quantities, 30N, 6M, in the question. So notice here, we didn't even tell you, look at this, a donkey, ... 30 newtons for a distance of 6 meters. What is the ... You don't even know what the question is about. However, it can still be done. Check out the units. If we have Newton, N, and meter, M, in the question, and our answer choice is N times M, well, then the only way to make this N times M is if the number attached to the N, the 30, so 30N, has to be multiplied by the number up here attached to the M. So 6, it's a little tough to write, so I'll skip the 0.0, M. The answer choice is 5. So the question is, are these two equal? If you take 30N times 6M, which is the way you will get N times M, does it come out to 5? Well, no, of course not. 30 times 6 is 180, not 5. This is probably not the answer. Second choice. Well, actually, this is also N times M, and this one is, again, 30 times 6. Does that come out to, well, this answer choice is 180. Question mark. Does that come out? Well, actually, yes, it does. This is very likely to be the answer choice. Let's check out these two over here. If the answer is 180 N over M, well, the way you make an answer with Newton per meter, or N over M, is if you take the number that's attached to the N and divide it by the number that's attached to the M in the question. Again, you do it just like this on the SAT too. So 30 is attached to the N in the question. 6 is attached to the M in the question. Is 30 divided 6 equal to 180? Well, obviously not. 30 divided 6 is 5. That is probably not the answer. And choice 4 also is N divide M. So it's the same thing, just is it equal to this time, question mark, 0.2, 0.20. Well, we just did this, and it was 30 divided 6. 5 is not equal to 0.0. So in very strong likelihood that choice 2 is your answer, even though you knew nothing of the question. So this is pretty powerful. The dimensional analysis, looking at the units, allows you to first make sure your answer has the right units, and then second, can sometimes actually get you the answer without you fully understanding what's going on. This is one of those pursuit of perfection tricks. If you get stuck and you really need to figure it out, this may help you. So W1 pen is the homework we want you to do. And I only want you to do page 1. Do not do page 2. Page 2 you're not ready for. Page 1 is 5 questions. And if you notice here, do what the assignment asks. The assignment says very clearly, don't use any equations, no formulas, no formulas, no formulas. You are just doing this the way we did question 38 in the notes. So this is actually a bit easier than even what we just did in the notes because all 4 answer choices are in meter. So look at what the question has. 5 meters per second. It also has 20 seconds. So the question you have to ask yourself is, how do I take meters per second and separately seconds, and somehow combine them to give me all four answer choices are meters. Now I want you to realize here, there are not unlimited choices. Basically, you can multiply these two, or you can take the first one and divide the second, or the second one and divide the first. One of those three is going to give you the answer, most likely. In this case, hopefully you see meter per second times seconds is going to cancel the seconds and leave you with meters. So then all you do is you take the 5, which was attached to the meters per second. You take the 20, which was attached to the seconds, and boom, you'll get your answer. So it's basically done with number 1. You have 4 others to do. So the key here, don't try to be smart in the question. You may know an equation already. Maybe you knew how to do speed with distance and time, but that's not what we're looking for here. Just use the units. Again, this is nice to have in your back pocket when you're pursuing perfection. Okay, we'll do a second video for the other page of notes.